Hey everybody, I'm feeling particularly funereal this week, and that is because I have had to pick the team for this week's SuperLobby podcast. Our special guest dropped out at the last minute through no fault of his own, but somebody had to pick up the slack and select a side for what must be the worst slate that has ever existed in daily fantasy soccer. Unfortunately, David, it was me. Do you feel for me?
I do. I actually do. It was a really hard slate. It is a really hard slate this week. I don't fancy particularly your chances of getting the top spot in the Super Lobby contest. But I think you can do well relatively to the strength, but it's relative to the strength of the slate.
So, I'm. There's a fair chance I'm going to be bottom of the table, but I'll have a little asterisk attached because
Yeah,
worst
you and
slate ever.
Hesh.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
him in International Week.
Him in International Week, that was brutal, poor guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we get into running the rule over my car crash of a team, David, let's talk about what's been happening in the industry this week. First of all, positive, profitable Saturdays for both FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
is, great news for the DFS industry.
Yeah, definitely. We looked at the figures on Monday. We looked at the figures from the weekend. We looked in particular on Saturday's figures, like college, soccer, and everything else.
Yeah, MLB was a big feature.
MLB was there. And the underlying numbers are pretty solid. We were really quite nicely not surprised, but we were just happy to see that. I think there's been a lot of negative in the States regarding the overexposure allegedly of the adverts, and I think that's been getting some undue attention, but actually people are starting to focus away from the fact that there's real revenues there, and Saturday showed that. So
and it's good because so they're hitting the advertising hard. They're going MLB, they're going NFL. They're going Sundays, big money, millionaires being made every week. But what's happening is that these sign-ups are just funneling into other sports, which is massively important for basically for the economy of daily fantasy sport. They're not just playing NFL.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, the ecosystem is definitely developing, and I think there's some murmurings coming out that the companies are fairly happy with what's being achieved, and I think it's internally there's some positive notes being sung. Not just from the big two, but from all the operators, or most of the operators.
Glad to hear it. Speaking of the big two, you were privileged, is that the word? Privileged enough to be invited to a special behind-the-scenes event at FanDuel Towers.
Yeah, it was indeed. It sounds a little bit better than what it was.
I got to do the build-up.
Oh, amazing! Like a royal garden party. Yeah, we were lucky enough. We had a meeting with Cameron, who represents FanDuel, and he showed us around the new Glasgow office. So in our home city. So we had to see it, and it will be a great place to work. Not for us, obviously, but for the people lucky enough to get work there. So yeah, pretty splendid stuff. Just what you would imagine from one of these sort of high tech startups. All the free jelly babies.
Football table. Foosball?
Yeah, I think there was like a ping pong table. There was like a pretty cool restaurant. There was like free jelly babies.
Free jelly babies.
Bananas. All the stuff, right? All the goodies.
Amazing.
I suppose if you're working a 22-hour day, you might as well be a nice environment to do it in. So
if you could earn $50,000 in your current job, we're going to offer you $40,000, but free jelly babies. So
jelly babies.
It's a hard sell.
And a dental plan.
Well, yeah, we could probably use it in the UK, to be honest. What else has been happening? We are releasing a pretty exciting story on superlobby.com tomorrow, perhaps today, about negative rake tournaments, which are basically contests that pay you to enter them. David, tell me how that works.
Yeah, so we mentioned that there's an operator or two that have been throwing out some negative rake contests. We wanted to make our users aware of them. They're obviously there in the Super Lobby. Basically, you enter say $2 to enter the contest, and last place would pay you $3, and obviously first place might pay you like $500. And it's used, the reason why the operators do this, it's like an acquisition tool for new customers. So they just want you in there. They want you to have the experience of building a lineup on the site, and they want you to have the experience of sort of entering it and of winning cash and of seeing your bank balance grow. And that could become, quite a nice experience for someone. So, that's what it is. But the point is, it's the golden age of daily fantasy for a player. This sort of stuff is definitely not going to be around forever. So whilst it is there, you ought to take advantage. And we mentioned that in the NFL Week 4 preview.
Sure.
Alongside, drum roll, so we also have a couple of CEO interviews happening this week as well. We've got Leighton, who's the CEO over at Pick Champs, and great guy. We got him to, in fact, I think he spoke with your good self. And you also interviewed Grant Yoder, who's CEO at Fantasy Draft. So,
Indeed.
As ever with the SuperLobby, we like to try and take you behind the scenes in the daily fantasy industry. So we have done so.
What I really like about conducting these interviews with CEOs is that you really get a feel for the sincerity of the company. I think it's very important to get a human face on it. These aren't just big faceless organizations operating across the pond. These are guys that just want to chat directly to you via Skype or whatever for a 10-minute interview and let you know why they're super excited about their product and why you should be too. So much kudos to Grant and Leighton for taking the time to chat with me. All right, David, I've put this off long enough. I think it's time to run the rule over my horrendous lineup. So here we go. Boom! BPL Saturday, October 3rd, late start on mondogol.com. David, normally I'm the one that asks the questions, but because it's my team, I guess you should take it away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you've got 3 West Ham guys in there, first off, right? Okay, and they're away to Sunderland. You hate Sunderland. You hate the Sunderland manager. You hate the city. You hate everything to do with Sunderland. Is this an emotional choice, or is this data driven?
I have got nothing against Sunderland whatsoever. I'm nothing against their manager, but for the fact that he used to manage Rangers, and my grudges go back a long, long way. No, I actually think that West Ham are. Well, see, West Ham are so Jekyll and Hyde. I'm just relying on them being Jekyll or Hyde or whatever the good one was this week. But you know what? When you look at the 3 players that I picked, I think that's defensible. So we've got Aaron Cresswell, and I'm bringing up the stats here. And he's a decent point accumulator. It's kind of it's tough to find his average here actually, but you're looking at about 8 points. Winston Reid, the centre back. Normally I'm a full back guy, but I've gone with Winston Reid, the centre back, and Kouyate's just on fire in the midfield at the moment. So I stand behind my picks with West Ham, but tentatively. If they were at home, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Yeah. I think the problem with this slate is there's only one strong favourite, and that's Man City at home to Newcastle. And that's a strong favourite who had a really hard game, and they did win in the last minute last night, 2 nights ago. Yep. That's the only strong favourite really in the whole slate here.
That's true, but David and I were talking off camera, and Man City don't have a European game for 2.5 weeks now, or 3, just under 3 weeks. So I'm hoping that the fact that they're just Saturday for a couple of weeks will enable guys like De Bruyne and Aguero to get that little bit of rest while still playing regular football.
I can see them not even starting.
I know. That's the gamble with the big teams, the squad rotation. Especially
this as well. I can just see, so they've come back. It was Thursday, early hours of Thursday by the time they got back. They wouldn't have trained, obviously, Thursday. Friday was probably just a, massage. Saturday, Aguero, a bit injury prone kind of thing anyway. So,
David, that's the exact reason why I jettisoned Kolarov from my team. I don't think he'll play.
You don't think he'll play?
I don't think Kolarov will play because Man City are better stocked with fullbacks
Right.
than they are goal scorers.
Okay.
Like, obviously, you've got Wilfried Bony, but he is, like, Bony is a step up for almost any team in the league, apart from Man City, because you take Aguero out and your standard automatically drops.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope, I don't wish bad of you, I hope you do perform this week for the SuperLobby, for our reputation, for everything that we stand for. I'm just afraid that we might be on the wrong side of a humiliation here.
It could be an embarrassment. I mean, the problem is all of these guys, I mean, I've got some real points accumulators. Guys like Nathan Redmond, Riyad Mahrez, they are more than capable of going a goal and an assist out. Jamie Vardy.
I mean, you've gone for Redmond, Norwich at home to Leicester, and you've got Mahrez and Vardy for Leicester. If that's 0-0...
I know, I'm screwed.
Screwed.
That's like, you could say that about any game. If Man City lose 2-0 to Newcastle, I'm screwed. If Villa beat Stoke, because I've got 2 Stoke players, I'm gambling quite heavily on Stoke to beat Villa, even though, there's been little from Stoke this season to suggest that they've got big wins in them. It's more about Villa's poor run of form right now.
Okay.
I'm not too happy. I actually went 3-5-2 and I changed it to 3-4-3 because there was just a dearth of talent. There's just a real shortage of good players. Yeah,
there's a lot of injuries just now as well, isn't there? Bournemouth have got a lot of bad injuries. I noticed you went for the Watford player Nyom.
Yeah. I know less about him than you, but he accumulates points. He's a decent price at 7.4 mega. It's actually quite expensive. It's my most expensive defender, but he has been accumulating. Watford have not been conceding. I mean, they have been rock solid this season, particularly for a promoted side. I had one more point to make about this team, and it's gone clean out of my brain. I had Wes Hoolahan in, dropped him for Mahrez. How do you feel about that?
I'd probably rather have Mahrez, and I think like Hoolahan's to me he's a player that's exposed at that level, like having a little bit of a hot streak, but I know he is a decent player, but he's not worth that sort of price point the Mondigal set him up as.
Are you talking about Hoolahan or Mahrez? Sorry.
I'm talking about Hoolahan.
Okay, got you.
I think Hoolahan's like right at I think he's right at the peak of what he is. I think Mahrez, could be a guy that ends up playing for like a top 4, top 5 team at some point. I think he's a better caliber than Hoolahan. Vardy I'm okay with, is like a sort of, away from home, you could be a counter-attack with his pace. I can definitely see him doing something. He's busy as well. He's not just like a guy that we talk about Giroud previous weeks who just stands there and does nothing. I like Giroud, but that kind of guy. I don't know, maybe would you not have wanted to go for, like, say, the Man City goalkeeper? They're probably most likely to even just throw a couple of lemons in from Man City in defence just for the clean sheet, maximise your clean sheet potential.
Well, it all comes down to what my goal is for this tournament, for this team. My goal is not, like, obviously I don't want to finish bottom of the SuperLobby table, but that's kind of incidental to the fact that I'm trying to win the Mondigal 10k. If you see what I mean. So I've gone all in on this team basically. I've gone big or go home sort of thing. So if I go with Joe Hart, because everyone is picking Joe Hart in goal this week. I mean, because they're at home to Newcastle, it's free money. He's guaranteed to rack up some points for you. But Jack Butland, I don't really see where Villa's goal threat is coming from against Stoke, because their best striker, Rudy Gestede, will be well marshalled because Stoke have a very physical defensive line.
Right. Okay.
So I do quite fancy Stoke for the clean sheet.
Logic. There's logic, in a lot of different ways. Something it's not my theory, but seems to be a correct theory. I listen to smart people than myself over the weeks, and one of the things is when there's a bit of a dodgy slate of games, they're like, don't use your budget. Like, anyone that uses their budget up this week's not going to win. Guys are probably going to win this having used like 88 million. It's just like, just go for outliers, just go for random stuff.
Yeah. Well, I had 1.3 million behind actually, or something like that before 1.1 before I dropped Hoolahan and brought in Mahrez. I thought that was the only way that I could really see myself trading up.
Yeah, an upgrade and stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, the thing is as well, you've only got 2 players out your 11 that are actually playing at home.
I know.
It's one of the classic Mondigal kind of rules, isn't it? Where again, like, Gallen said it, Nick said it, like all these guys say it, like you go for your home favourites, you go for goals. Nick was like, you go for goals. So
it's just home favourites.
Very contrarian.
Who are the favourites this week?
I know. Well, you're right. Maybe the favourites are all the away teams.
I know it's one of those weird outlier weeks, or it seems to me. But you've got to fancy West Ham at Sunderland. You've got to fancy Leicester at Norwich. You've got to fancy Watford. Well, maybe not. But Watford-Bournemouth seems like a stalemate type of game. And I certainly fancy Stoke at Villa. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm downplaying home advantage.
I think we've got to be fair with you this week. This is a real toughie. I don't think there's 100 points win the big GPP this week. Yeah, maybe, maybe it does, but,
Is this like,
Godspeed. I almost feel like I'm saying goodbye to you. Godspeed, Christy.
This is a November at St Andrews or something. This is like brutal conditions, links golf.
Driving wind, 30 mile an hour, all that stuff. I don't really know what else to say. You're going to, you're up against it. I really hope if you can come through and top the leaderboard with 85 plus points, I think that's what you're going to need to beat Gallen. Yeah. You'll deserve your place.
I'm going for it, David. I'm going for it. There's no, I could play safe and just go for mid-table and just stack it with Man City players, but that's not really my style. I'm an optimist.
Tell me before we go, could you name a goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, and attacker who isn't in your team that could have made your team?
Yeah.
Who do you sort of think might have good games this week?
Okay, Joe Hart is obvious as a goalkeeper. There was really no one else. Adrian at West Ham is a decent shout, but he's pricey. Defensive-wise, no. I mean, honestly, there is very, very little. I looked at the Stoke defenders because I fancied them to do okay at Villa, but none of them are point scorers. They're just like four lumps of wood that stop the ball coming into the box. So they're not going to gallop up the wings. Alan Hutton at Villa I considered because he does have assists in him. He gets, he's box to box, but not really feeling it. Midfield, Wes Hoolahan I did have, and I think he's a good shout. Up front, I actually got snookered by this. It was I was so psyched. I had Diego Costa at my team at 7 million. I thought 7.4. I thought, my God, that is printing money. I know he'll be like 100% owned, but 7.4 million for Diego Costa, too good to be true. And then, of course, Twitter told me, oh, he's suspended for 2 games. That's how they get you.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I was so excited that I totally forgot to do my homework.
I know. There's words for that, none of which I can use.
Idiocy.
Well, no, I wasn't. It's just a bit unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's rather.
What about I kind of know what you're going to say before I even ask the question. You're going to say Tony Pulis, blah blah blah, right? But Palace at home to West Brom. Like, Palace are a bit of a sort of flary team, like they're the second short, pretty much the joint second shortest in the betting this week.
Are you first of all, are you talking Alan Pardew, not Tony Pulis? Because
I'm talking about the West Brom manager.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Palace manager.
Is Tony Pulis still the West Brom manager?
He is. I thought you were talking about the Palace manager because I have a rant about Alan Pardew every week.
It's getting hard with you, Christy, because you've got a decent grudge probably against 90% of the EPL.
I do. Don't even start me on Scottish football.
And none of it's even based on losing money. No, it's just like a good old-fashioned grudge. Like, Alan Pardew, he's got a bloody... No, who is it? It's the guy at Liverpool, Brendan Rodgers.
He's got a Porsche. He's got a Porsche. I can't take a 40-something man seriously if he has a Porsche sports car. Okay, one of those 4-wheel drive Porsches, okay, but it's a Porsche sports car. How do you listen to him? And
it's not just that. He's got a Porsche, but he's got a portrait of himself in his office, and that's what you
in his living room at home.
And that's what you really didn't
portrait of him. And how do you So he's lecturing the team about the importance of tactical discipline and, being on the ball all the time. And you're just like, you're having a midlife crisis. I just can't take him seriously.
Brilliant. So back to Palace, West Brom.
Okay, I'll cut you off there because that's an early game. It's irrelevant.
Oh, it's irrelevant?
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
Even better.
So, but Chelsea versus Southampton, that is a game that I forewent this week.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of Chelsea. They have so many good players, they'll turn it around eventually, but I don't know if this is their game. So I left it. I just completely ignored the game.
That's fine. I'm going to do what you normally do to me. I think we've spoken long enough.
Beautiful. Pleasure seeing you.
Pleasure seeing
face
you.
Face to face, kind of. And everybody out there in internet land, get on superlobby.com. It is freebies week. Free money. Who doesn't like free money? I mean, really, get on it. Check us out on Twitter at SuperLobby. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and YouTube, etc., etc. As always, it's a pleasure. David, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good luck.
Thank you. Godspeed, everyone. Bye-bye.